communicating. Hello, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is another book with Jenny Denise, being bondage, being broke. And we are near the end of the year, and we want to go out on top. Me, absolutely on top. Okay, tonight is going to be so exciting. This is one of my most favorite chapters in this book, okay, in this teaching series. It is absolutely going to be monumental, guys. Get your pencils and your paper ready. You are in for a treat tonight. I am going to give you 10 steps you need, and just get everything queued up here. From from the laptop, from the desktop, and everything else. But that's okay. I want you to get the quality picture sound so you can get everything that you need to have tonight to be absolutely successful in the world. We need to write it because I'm excited. Having some connection issues. So, okay, we're good. Okay. If somebody just with me, I'm gonna just reset all of you here. Thank you. I don't want you to go anywhere. So I have this iPhone and I know how to switch Wi-Fi on this iPhone. And this is gonna be great. Live just bears all, right? There's no hiding anything. It is what it is, and we have to deal with it and keep rolling. So I am praying that there's that we shouldn't have any interruptions. But again, if it cuts out, stay with me. I'll be back. All right. I gotta figure out how to change the Wi-Fi on iPhone, but that's okay. All right. So again, tonight you're going to learn the 7 steps to breaking broke. Okay, it is going to be life changing. Buckle up. That's all I can say. Just buckle up for a treat. Um, we learned over the last few weeks how important it is to work the formula. Does anybody remember the formula that you were provided last week? Anybody at all? Can you tell me anything about these last 2 chapters? What we learned? Anything that stood out? Anything at all? Okay, I'm getting a ding from over here. Guys, I'm trying my best to keep up with your comments as they come in, and I'm people receiving on Facebook, some directly through YouTube, and I am trying to at the same time. So we are really working this thing. Why? Because I want everybody to know. I want everybody to know and be as excited as I am. God, this is real. The stuff that we're going over tonight was implemented 5,000 years ago. Absolutely 5,000 years ago. And I told you last week, and it's still true today, that we are still very much in it. Let's hit mute on that. There we go. And that way my sound's not coming up, working through, and there's a slight delay on Facebook. So, okay. Anybody remember the formula yet? Okay. It is keep 10% to yourself, 20% goes to your dad, and you live on what's that? That's 30. So you would live on 7%. I had to think about myself. And tonight we're going to review 7 steps. And you can call this pretty much a self-help guide, a self-check guide, along with the 7 steps that's going to make you awesome and amazing and wealthy. Let's not forget we're humble, we're modest, we're laid back, but the purpose of this training is to change not only your mind, to it and stay with me. This will give you time to grab a bottle of water, get your pencil, and your paper, call my expert. Hello, expert Nana. How are you?
Hi, where are you calling me live?
Well, because I'm live from my iPhone for the sound, and in doing that, I didn't switch the iPhone to the Wi, the new Wi, and I don't know how to do that. Can you walk me through how to do that on my iPhone?
Yeah,
Hey, it's all right. We're back. Oh my gosh, I'm excited. We're back. Yes. Thank you. I still have my expert. Stay on the line for just a second, and can you tell me if the video quality and the sound is okay?
okay, let me go
Guys,
back.
this is live, raw, uncut, unedited. Stay with me, and I'm not going to stop and start this over. We're gonna keep going.
Well, mine has a delay, so you're still sitting down on my phone.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, perfect. Okay, guys, we're back. Okay, just getting a couple things in order so that we are good and no more glitches. All right. Thank goodness for the experts, right? That's my 17-year-old daughter who she's always had an iPhone, so she's my expert, right? Okay, I got one more thing I need to do, guys, and we'll resume our live. I know we're almost 10 minutes in, and no, I don't want to cut and start over because this is what we are talking about tonight, your mindset and how distractions come and things come and unplanned things, and you just keep going, right? You just keep cranking it out. So I am going to be the very example for which I'm going to teach you tonight. Okay, so we have 7 steps that we're going to review tonight, and if you will bear with me, I need to plug this in because now finally got the connection going perfectly, and my battery's low. I know the devil don't want you to hear this tonight. Stay, do not move. I'm gonna just run grab a charger. Do not move. I promise you, you are in for a treat on tonight. You do not want to go anywhere. Stay with me. I'm gonna grab a charger. Hang on just a second. Okay, this is hilarious. Oh, all right, I'll back. You know what I was thinking as I was running to get that charger? I was thinking, man, I'm really glad this isn't one of those lives where I don't wear anything on the bottom and I'll just have the top. Okay, I'm silly. I know it. All right, all glitches are fixed. All devices are charging and we are good to go. Thank you so much for hanging in there with me. I know we're at 10 minutes in, so let's get going, okay? No time to waste. Now, let's go. This chapter opens with a powerful story. The king of Babylon has been out conquering lands and winning wars and destroying other towns, and he's looting them and bringing back all the spoils to his land. And with all the gold that he brings back to his land, he gets to rebuild his town, and he makes these magnificent temples, and he builds a canal, and he's doing really well. And he looks around, and the momentum, the mode is really sad. And he called in his chancellor, his advisor, and he says, "Hey, what's going on with everybody? You know, we've gotten all the gold we can possibly want. It's been, spilled over into them. They were really spending at one while. What's going on?" And so his chancellor says to him, "Well, that money went through all of their hands like milk in a strainer. I mean, it's all gone. There's no gold left except but for a select few who knew how to obtain wealth and use the gold, and they're doing exceptionally well. But the others, the majority of all of your people, are not faring so well. And as a result, listen, this is 5,000 years ago, but I promise you it will sound like today." He tells them, as a result, there are many people without work. There are merchants, and they have few customers because others don't want to work. He says there's a lot of farmers, and they are stuck with all this produce because nobody's buying. And then he says again, there's just the people don't have enough gold. They don't have enough money to go out and just spend, except but a select few. And so the king is very upset. He's distraught. He's like, "What do you mean? I've been doing all this work. I've been building this kingdom. My goal was for everybody to prosper." And he says, "Why do you suppose there are just so few men that can acquire all the gold?" And what the chancellor responds and says is just absolutely is profound. Guess what his response is to the king's question? And the king's question again is, "Why should so few men be able to acquire all the gold?" And the chancellor looks at the king and says, "Because they know how." Mm, how powerful is that? Because they know how. And so the king then demands, if you will, another question, so to speak. He says, "Should not all the people learn to accumulate gold and therefore themselves become rich and prosperous?" Simple question, right? Well, the chancellor responds saying, "It's possible, Your Excellency." And then we get into the meat of the chapter because the king is perplexed and he doesn't know why. And he says, I want my kingdom to be full of men, mankind, and women that are all wealthy. And I want us to be known as the wealthiest people in the world. So I want you to go find me the richest man in Babylon and bring him to me. Guess who the richest man in Babylon is? We opened with him in chapter 1, Arcad. And so the chancellor summons Arcad. Arcad comes to the king, and the king has a conversation with him. And he asked him, hey, how becamest thou so wealthy? And in today's language, man, how you get so rich, you know? And so Arcad and the king goes, they have this exchange, right? He's communicating with him as to how he gained his wealth. And the king just wants to know, hey, can you teach your ways, your methods, your strategies to others? And then I am going to get enough of them that they can learn from you and teach everyone else. And so he said, please just tell me before we even go that far, what is your secret? What is the secret to acquiring wealth? And Arcad says to the king, oh, this is so perfect. He says, it's practical, Your Majesty, and it's very, very simple. And he tells him, where am I? I'm on page 58. If you have the book and you're following along, I'm on page 58. He says, that which one man knows can be taught to another. So he says to him, the king says, you're speaking words that I want to hear. And so Arcad is excited. He's going to teach. The king puts together a team of 100 men and a class of 100 men, and Arcad is to teach these men. And it's absolutely mind-blowing at the lessons they go through. And it's powerful. He says, wait a minute, let me back up because I wanted to make sure I hit this. Yeah. Oh, that was it. Yeah. It took 2 weeks. He compiled a group of 100 men. They met in the classroom and Arcad begins to teach. Okay. Now, what he teaches them will ultimately be what you learn tonight. I need you to get a pencil and a paper or hit audio record or something. You must capture these 7 things that you need to do that will change your life forever. This will change. 5,000 years ago, this was written and put into practice by the entire kingdom because those 100 went out and taught 100 and those 100 taught 100 more and so on and so forth. So I absolutely need you to get your pen and paper. Step 1. Are you with me? Here we are. Step 1. Start thy purse to fattening. What do I mean by that? I mean the very first thing you learned in this entire series. You are going to keep 1/10 of every single dollar that you receive, earn, gain, get as a gift. 10 cents goes to you, okay? So I want you guys to keep in mind, we learned that the very first day. So think about this. And Arcad uses this example. He posed the men. He says, hey, what do you all do for a living? He asks all 100 of them, and they each say, oh, I'm a bricklayer. Oh, I'm a butcher. Oh, I sell eggs. Oh, I'm a farmer, and so on and so forth. So he said, okay, we have a room full of people with a whole lot of skills and a whole lot of talent. So each of you make money. And I'm going to teach you right where you are the exact same concept, and each of you will obtain wealth. He told the egg maker, he says, hey, I'm going to just put this in layman's terms. If every single day you put 10 eggs in a basket and you take out 9, leaving 1, what will happen after a month? Well, the eggs will grow and grow and grow until you are overflowing and you're operating in the overflow and you have an abundance, okay? So he says, I want you to think about that same concept. So that's step 1. You're going to keep 1/10 of everything that you earn. And that's a minimum. If you can live off of very little expenses, you're gonna see that in just a few more steps. Add more by all means, but at the very least, you're going to keep 1/10, okay? So that is going to be the first step I want you to write down. Keep 1/10, all right? and that will start thy purse to fattening. And I know the men are like, no, not a purse. Back in those days, they used that kind of language. So you know what I mean, right? Okay, so that's step one. Let's go to step two. And I'm going to move at a rapid pace because I'm super excited to get all 7 steps to you. And then after which, we're going to talk about all of this. Okay. So, step two, you need a budget. Okay. When Archive presented this to the class, let me explain to you how he did it. And it was just, he said, let me explain something to you. The truth is simple. Okay? It always is. And so what I'm giving you, even with the saving 1/10, you're going to reject that because, oh my gosh, I only have 1/10, and I'm not. That's all I have to myself. Well, you're not keeping much to yourself now, which is why you've not obtained wealth. This is proven and it's effective and it works. Try it. I guarantee you will have a different life this time next year. So, okay. He says, Arcad, and again, 5,000 years ago, he's talking about what? The law of attraction on page 63. He says, some kind of way, while you're, and this is leading up to the budget, guys. That's step number 2, budget. He says, what he noticed in all his life, and I'm reading on 63, is that, let me see, I'm going to put this. I don't want to read it. I want to paraphrase it. Basically, with the law of attraction, and that's what he's describing, not knowing later on, like in our time today, it would be called the law of attraction. He says, I noticed that broke people stay broke, and I noted that wealthy people stay wealthy. And I know good things come to the wealthy people, more money comes to wealthy people, and more expenses and reasons to be broke comes to broke people. And we're going to get into that. He says, we'll cover that. Actually, I'm gonna come back to that in step 7. But yeah, I want you to keep that in mind. Okay. So with regards to the budget, which is the remedy number 2, he breaks down how you have to learn how to control your expenditures. You must live on a budget. Well, one of the guys in the class said, "Hey, I'm not living on a budget." Oh my gosh, it was awesome. He says, "Everything that I make, I want to keep. I don't want to be a slave to a budget and then have to, live my life like that and just limit it." And again, that connects with step 7. I'm gonna sneak peek you mindset. It's how you look at things, guys. Okay, so Armand, in all his wisdom, he says to this guy, you know, I am the richest and wealthiest man in the world. At the time, he was. He says, and because of all my wealth, do you think that I may gratify my every desire? You think I could go out here and just do whatever I want, whenever I want, however I want with my money? I am wealthy, but guess what happens if I do that? If I buy a yacht today and a helicopter tomorrow and an island the next day, what's happening? I'm just spending, spending, spending. So do you think that even with my wealth, no, that there's not any limits to my time, any limits to my strength? There aren't limits to the distance that I could travel. There aren't limits to what I can eat, and there aren't limits to what I can enjoy, even as a wealthy man. You need to consider all of this while you don't have the wealth yet. There are still limits when you are wealthy, and it changes. Of course, your lifestyle changes, but you want to become wealthy and remain wealthy. You don't want to be what they call income tax rich. Some of us are familiar with that. You don't want to be hood rich for a second. That's not wealth, okay? So he further breaks down that you have to control your expenses. You need to write out a list of your expenses and cross off the things that are not a necessity. Okay, oftentimes we get our desires mixed up with our expenses, and it causes a huge problem for us. All right, so we need to work the budget, keep adjusting the budget, and actually stick to it. And it's going to constantly be changing as we meet certain goals and as we eliminate debt. Okay? We just adjust as we go along. The purpose of the budget is just to help our pockets increase, help our wealth to increase. We're going to live and do what we need to do today so that we can be and live how we want to live tomorrow. Right? Right? Okay, I'm going to try to keep up with these comments, guys. Awesome. Thank you. I see that. Okay. That's number two. Number three, he very simply explains what we know today as using compound interest. Of course, that term didn't exist 5,000 years ago, but what our Arcad described to one of the guys in his class is the concept of saving and compound interest. Okay, he tells this awesome story. It's absolutely amazing. And I'm going to see if I could turn right to it. Yes. Okay. So he tells this story of uh, at his first investment. And he says, I don't want to go into it. I'll get into it a little later. But initially, his first investment was terrible. He loaned some money or invested some money to buy jewelry, except that he gave that money to a bricklayer and trusted that he would go out and hire the Phoenicians to buy fine jewels. Well, the bricklayer didn't know anything about jewels, so of course they both got had. Okay, so he talks. He says the bricklayer was an honorable man. The Phoenicians were the ones who kind of got over on him, but nonetheless, he explains the concept of compound interest, and he tells a story in chapter three. Excuse me, in remedy three of a man who goes out, and he was an honorable man, and he sold, or excuse me, he was saving money. Am I mixing up the third and the fourth one? Yes, I am. Let's get it straight. Hang on, guys. Give me a second. Or does anybody remember that? Throw me a hint and drop me a comment because I'm super excited and I'm going ahead of myself. I think I'm mixing two stories of the examples that he used. Yes. Okay. Got it. So he tells this story of a guy who wants to save money for his kid, right? And his kid is a toddler at this time. And he goes to the money lender and he says, hey, I want to you to hold these coins for my son until he's 20 years old. And the money lender says, oh, okay, that's awesome. I'll do that. He says, I'll do that with a 1/4 return of its value after every 4 years. So every 4 years, your whatever you have, I'm going to take a fourth of that, and that will be your interest that you get to keep. And so, or it will have accumulated and earned, and that will be yours. And so, after 20 years, or the father says, "Oh well, every 4 years, I don't want you to give the money to me. I want you to take that money and put it on top of my principal of my initial investment and what I already have." So after 20 years, he goes back to the money lender. And, again, every 4 years, a fourth of that went back on top of the silver that he already had. So can you imagine? After 20 years, he goes back and the lender says, hey, this is a whole lot of money. You have now 160 pieces of silver. And I believe he started off with 10, if I'm not mistaken. And the guy says, oh, okay, well, actually, my son's faring really, really well. I'm not going to tell him that I have this money for him. I'm going to keep it going. Let's keep it going till he's 50. So 30 years later, he comes back. Now, remember, after every 4 years, it's accumulated a lot of wealth, a lot of money. So he tells him every 4 years, take a fourth, put it back on top. Well, after 50 years, you can imagine that he had almost 17 times as much in the savings. And what is that concept, guys? Compound interest. And that is what we know it as today. So that farmer 5,000 years ago did not know that he was doing something that we call accumulating and saving and accumulating compound interest, okay? Like stacking it up, right? We're not doing anything with it. We're going to let it roll over, roll over, roll over. Now, not doing anything with it is not a good thing. You'll learn in a later step, in the next step actually, what we want to do with that compound interest, right? So that's step number 3. You're going to save, 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 save. And you want to have an interest-bearing account that you can save and on top of the savings, save more. You're going to save the interest that it's gained, right? And then the next step, step 4, you're going to learn what to do with that compound interest, right? All right, let's go. We're doing great, guys. Step 4, invest wisely. I cannot stress that. I can't put that any better. Guys, wisdom is key. These 7 steps are used by the wealthy today. Step 1, keep 1/10. 2, budget. 3, you're going to save and accumulate the compound interest. Let it roll over and roll over and roll over. And then step 4, which is where we are, guys, invest wisely. I'm going to give you 2 rules to investing. Okay? And I'm not going to go into the story, which is an awesome story. He explained, not the first one. I'll explain the second one because it's awesome. He explains what happened to him with his second investment journey. All right. So, investment rule number 1: get this in your heads. Number 1, I'm on page 72. If you have the book, I'm reading from The Richest Man in Babylon, the original edition. So, step number 2, or investment rule number 1: before you loan any man any money, be sure that man can pay you back. And you know, when I say man, I mean mankind. Before thou loan it to any man, assure thyself of his ability to repay and his reputation for doing so, that thou mayest not unwittingly be making him a present of thy hard earned treasure. In 2021, that means don't loan any broke folks any money. I don't care who if they cannot repay you, unless you blessing somebody. That's not a loan. You gifted. But you can't do that because right now, today, you're not in a position to do so. So you're on a no giving freeze right now. Sorry. Christmas can wait. Mama can wait. You have to let them know, or not, because you don't owe anybody an explanation. This is for you, that you're not in a position to do so at this time. Okay? But that's investment rule number 1. Before you loan any man any money, be sure of 2 things. 1, that he can pay you back, and number 2, that man's reputation is intact. Investment rule number 2: before you entrust an investment in any field, acquaint thyself with the dangers which may beset it. In layman's terms, don't go jumping into something you haven't done your homework on. Okay? You absolutely cannot afford to do that. All right? Listen, this is the story that our God shares with us from his own experiences. And wisdom is found in a multitude of counsel. And guys, we learn from the experiences of others. We're not wealthy yet. Yet. I'm on my way. We're not wealthy yet. So we learn from the mistakes of others. Our God said, after his first investment bombed, and I don't want to go into all the details of the jewels and the Phoenicians and all of that. We just touched on that briefly. He decided, I'm going to try this again. He lost all his money, by the way. And then for 12 months, he saved again. And with that savings, that 10%, that 1/10 of everything for 12 months, at the end of the year, he took all of that. He had a guy who specialized in making shields. And he took and invested in the shield maker so that he could get a return on his money. And so he describes and explains that he did his homework. He found out that the shield maker would buy bronze and things coming off the ships, and he would use the money to do so, that he would borrow from the money lender. Well, Arkad became an investor and said, hey, don't go to the money lender. You can get it from me for half the price. I have interest. You give me back my return over the year, just in small pieces, and this is X amount that I will charge you for doing so. And he did that. And so Arkad became so wealthy with just that first venture that eventually the money that he was loaning the shield maker was the interest that he had paid to Arkad. So again, your interest is making the money for you, and your principal, your initial investment is always intact. Never, ever, ever give up or lose your initial investment. So that savings, that 12-month savings that you have, that will be your principal that you put up, and you will not touch it. You don't go partying. You're not. It's not time yet to go on the vacation. No, you're gonna let that money make money for you, and then use that money, not your principal investment. You're gonna use the money that it made, and you're gonna allow that to make money for you. Very, very awesome concept. I know. I'm super excited. I told you guys, this was written 5,000 years ago, and it still is true today. Okay. So, where are we? Step five. We're getting there. Step five. Again, this is a smart man. I cannot believe this was written 5,000 years ago. The fifth remedy to ensuring that you're not broke, the fifth step to breaking broke, is to buy a home. I see the reactions. Buy a home. You are renting. You are making someone else wealthy. As am I. I'm currently renting myself, but I won't be next year. Well, actually, we have a plan. I'm not sure if I will be next year, but the thing is, you want to put yourself in a position to where you can have ownership. This is what our God teaches 5,000 years ago. Every man that owns a roof and can shelter himself is on his way to obtaining wealth. And he goes over the simple rules of, as a man, you want to provide for your wife and kids. You want to see them playing in your yard. You want to have a place that nobody can put you out of. You want to make sure that you're providing for your wife and your children, and you're not making someone else wealthy, and while they're providing for their wife and kids. So he breaks down all of that, of course, which is a given. And then he gets into the crux of it all. He says, money lenders gladly consider all of your desires in homes and lands for your families. They open up the banks for you when you can say and show, I've made this investment, I've saved this much, here it is, I want to buy a home. They welcome you. Why? Because by doing so, and they understand this, now you're building a home from the ground up, possibly. Now that creates jobs for the bricklayer and for the carpenter and for the electrician. And it's all part of a cycle. And the wealthy knows this. It's just that we don't get it. We don't know it. But they all know this. And he goes into the details of what position you'll be putting yourself in, having become a person who owns property. And we all want to obtain ownership, guys. This is a super big, a huge step in breaking the bondage of being broke, okay, and obtaining wealth. We want to absolutely have ownership in property and homes and land, and that is going to be ours. We need to establish this now. It's not too late. I don't care how old you are watching this, it's not too late. We need to establish ownership. And he goes into further detail about what position you'll put yourself in to be able to obtain loans and more money based on the collateral that you have. I'm telling you, I cannot believe this was written 5,000 years ago. It's absolutely awesome. Then he goes into having valuable property, and now you have an asset, and the only thing that you will owe is taxes to the king. And what do we call that now? Taxes to the city, the county. You know, we pay our taxes on our homes. So yeah, again, still true today. Anyway, he goes to say that thus comes many blessings to the man who owns his own house. Okay, and that's step number 5. Step number 6 blew me away. How can they be talking about this 5,000 years ago? Step number 6 is get life insurance. Why are we as a people the slowest ones to jump on the bus about getting and protecting our family and our loved ones when we are in a position, maybe we're of old age, we can't work or provide anymore, or we become, God forbid, disabled, or we die, suddenly. Do you know you can set it up to where your home can be paid off and your vehicle can be paid off, and your family will be able to live free from stress and worry and could take that money as an investment to start a whole new life to break the generational curse of poverty, right? Guys, not rocket science. Again, step 6, get life insurance. So the way that he put it, and it's so awesome, um, he says basically to get your house in order and prepare for old age and death. But let me share with you what he said, and I am going to read this because, like I said, it absolutely blew me away that he's saying this. And it's what 5,000 years ago. Let me go back. So he says this. Mm. He says, I would that I might say more about this. And again, this was written back then. I like to change my voice and use their accent. He says, in my mind rests a belief that someday wise thinking men will devise a plan to insure men against death. Life insurance. 5,000 years ago, he says in his head, somebody in his mind, somebody was going to come up with this. He says, to insure man against death, whereby many men pay in a trifling sum regularly, and where we are, I skipped a line, for the family member who passeth beyond. This do I see as something desirable and which I could highly recommend. This man recommended this 5 times. But today, it is not possible because it must reach beyond the life of any man or any partnership to operate. So back in his day, 5,000 years ago, he said, we can't do it today. I understand that. But this is what I want you to do. And he taught them 5,000 years ago what they should do. And today, for us, what he taught them was to buy a life insurance policy. Can I make that any more plain? You all still with me? He says, someday do I feel that such a plan shall come to pass and be a great blessing to many men, because even the first small payment will make available a snug fortune for the family of a member should he pass on. Ninja. Whew. But because we live in our own today and not in the days which are to come, we must take advantage of those means and ways of accomplishing our purposes. Therefore, do I recommend to all men that they be wise and well thought out methods do provide against the lean purse in your mature years. Guys, this is great. Get life insurance. It is the very least you could do. You are valuable to your family, even in death. If you don't want your kids or sister, brother, mother, at least donate it to a charity, an organization, something. Get a policy. If you can't afford life insurance, get burial insurance, which comes at a very minimal cost. You need to be able to provide at least for your own burial, especially in today's time with the world being flipped upside down right now. We don't know which variant's going to get us. So, and or car accident or good God, natural causes. You just don't know. You want to prepare as best as you can, or at least make arrangements that your house is in order so your family can be well cared for. And that's step 6, written 5,000 years ago. And this is this man saying, I see it coming to pass. And here we are today. Let's take advantage of it, okay? Step 7, the final step. Increase thy ability to earn. This step is the most important of all 7. It speaks to your mindset, and it speaks to your drive, your ambition, being the best at your craft. And he gives the example that he started off as a simple scribe, and he had a determination to make more money. And when he looked around and he saw all the other scribes were making more money, he said to himself, I will not be outdone. I am going to be the best scribe there is. Nobody will outscribe me. I am going to write till my fingers fall off, and I'm going to make more money than everybody, and I'm going to save more money because I'm going to make more money, and I'm going to work harder, and no one will outwork me. And he was determined not to be outworked. And even as a scribe, he was not outworked. And guess what? He made more, so he's able to save more. Will Smith said something in an interview. It's awesome. He says, I will not be outdone ever. If I'm on a treadmill and you're on a treadmill and we're both going and we're going and they're hitting up, they're amping up the speed and they're amping up the speed and we're going, two things are gonna, one of two things will happen. You're gonna quit first or I'm going to die. Think about that. That is how determined and driven he is. And we need to adopt that mindset and that attitude and that way of thinking. You will not outwork me. You will not outsmart. You will not outthink me. You will not outdraw. You will not go further than I am going to go, because either you're going to get off and quit first or I'm going to die. And that is it. I'm going to complete these 7 steps. Nothing and no one will step in my way, will get in my way, will prohibit me from reaching my goals. I'm going to make it. That is the mindset you have to have. And that is the mindset that he describes in step 7. You must constantly set goals for yourself. And when you reach those goals, set more goals because you're ever learning. Set specific, attainable goals, okay? They need to be measurable. All right. We need to make sure they're attainable. We need to make sure they're realistic. We need to make sure we set them into where we can obtain them in a certain amount of time. We want to set time frames up, right? And that's what we want to do. And then we can get some of the desires that we want. They just need to be simple and definite. Arcad speaks on getting mentors. Every one of us should have multiple mentors. If you're listening to this live right now, and those even watching on replay, you should have a mentor. Why? Because you're not an expert in anything. And if you're the smartest person in your circle, you need a bigger circle, okay? Because you can't learn, all right? You need to surround yourself with people who have longer arms than you have and with deeper pockets. You always need to know somebody who knows somebody who can get you to somebody that you can learn from, all right? You need to expand your circle. You need to do more than just spend money. You need to learn how to make your money work for you. And you can do this by surrounding yourself with like-minded people, all right? People who are driven, ambitious, who know what they want. This is how you will become successful. And Arcad leaves us with this final piece of advice that I'm going to share with you. Out of the experience of long and successful life, I do urge for all men who desire worth the 7 remedies to a lean purse, which I call the 7 steps to being broke. Okay? All right, guys, that's it. I'm going to recap all 7 in case you missed it. Step 1, keep 1/10 minimum. Step 2, create a budget and live by it. Adjust it as you go along as you meet your goals. Step 3, save, save, save. Compound interest is your friend. Step 3, invest wisely. We're going to make investments. You're going to research. You're going to do your homework. You're going to study. You're not going to throw your money before the swine. Do your homework. Step 5, buy a home. Home ownership is important. If you own a home, keep it. It is your collateral. It is an asset. Step 6, be sure that you have life insurance. Okay? Step 7, you want to always develop your mindset. All right? Now, last week I promised you that I would go over a couple of side hustles that you could use to make money. And I'm not going to do it this week. I know I lied to you. Sorry. Don't stone me. I want to do it next week. Next week is our final chapter in our final lesson in this series. We've come such a long way. It's been tremendous. And I want to save that to next week at the end. I'll give you all of those. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. Who's that? Enjoying this, me and Allie. Awesome. Great steps. Sorry, guys, I wasn't keeping up with the comments. You guys are amazing. I appreciate it. Thank you. Guys, I want to know, if you're still with me, what was an aha moment for you? In just learning and listening to tonight, these three series, it could be from previous weeks. I'm curious, just what was an aha moment for you where you just know, hey, this is it, you know? Um, Anybody, are you still there? Let's see it. Let me if I can get this to go over. And it's a lot of information. Guys, it just blew my mind that the wealthy are still using these strategies today. And here we are, what, 5,000 years later, and we're just learning how they were the richest people in the world. And it's been a journey for me. It's absolutely amazing. Um, Really, just let's see here. Let me refresh. Okay. Oh, all of the steps and the life insurance. I got you. Okay, so the life insurance thoughts, even that it was 5,000 years ago. That was crazy, right? Absolutely crazy. I love that one, guys. That one was nuts. So, anybody else, you want to share anything else? Like, what did it for you? What was an aha moment? It blew my mind. We're 5,000 years ago and we're using the concepts today, right? Crazy. Let me hit refresh there. Okay. I don't want to keep you any longer. I want to thank you for your time, guys. Watching this on replay, you can rewind, you can slow it down, you can get the nuggets you need. You can, I'll timestamp it to where you can go and just write down the 7 steps. And if you get an opportunity, put this in your collection, guys. It should absolutely be part of your book collection. Okay? I appreciate your time, space, and energy. Good vibes. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you next week for the final chapter in this book and in this series. Thank you so much. You have been an awesome group. Have a good and wonderful evening.